When it comes to landscaping, three timeless materials have shaped outdoor spaces for centuries: wood, steel, and stone. Each has its own character, and when combined thoughtfully, they can transform a simple yard into a truly inspiring landscape. Wood brings warmth and a natural connection to the outdoors. Whether it's a rustic cedar fence, a pergola that casts dappled shade, or a raised garden bed, wood feels alive. It weathers time, changing color, telling its own story. Steel, on the other hand, adds structure and strength, from sleek garden edging to bold, Cortland steel walls. It creates lines that guide the eye and define spaces. Steel balances the softness of plants with modern edge, giving landscapes a sense of order. And then there's stone, the most timeless of all. Pathways, patios, and retaining walls built from stone ground the design in permanence. Every piece is unique, adding texture, weight, and a sense of place that no other material can match. In landscaping, it's not just about plants, it's about the materials we choose to frame them. Wood, steel, and stone, three elements, one design language, and endless possibilities. Today we're combining the three classic landscaping materials, wood, steel, and stone, into one functional and beautiful feature: a Gabion wall. Every garden path deserves a little character, not just a way to walk, but a frame that makes the whole space feel intentional. Today, I'm building a Gabion style wall, short, strong, and simple, using heavy 6x6 posts and hog panels. To anchor everything, we're using heavy wood posts. These posts give the wall stability and frame the design, tying the steel structure into the landscape. These posts may only stand 21 inches tall, but their size gives the wall real presence. They're the anchors, set deep enough to stay solid, spaced just right to carry the panels. Each post is measured, leveled, and planted firmly in the ground. This is the backbone of the wall. Get this step right, and everything else falls into place. Then come the hog panels. Steel mesh that's tough, clean, and perfectly suited for a border like this. Cut to size, they slip neatly between the posts, turning empty space into a patterned wall. The steel cages or panels create the structure. They're strong, durable, and capable of holding thousands of pounds of stone in place. With a heavy, barbed U-shaped nails, the panels are locked in, strong enough to hold their shape, light enough to blend with the space. I got the hog panels at Tractor Supply. Luckily for me, they were on sale at $30 for a 16 feet long by 34 inches high panel. Once the framework is ready, it's time for the stone. This is where the wall comes to life. Each rock adds weight, texture, and natural character. You can use local fieldstone, river rock, or even recycled concrete depending on the look you want. I'm using river rock because that's what I have and it matches the rivers that I already have. The hog panels have smaller gaps at the bottom and larger gaps as the height increases. This requires that smaller stones stack at the bottom and the larger stones as the height increases. As the stones stack up, the wall becomes more than just a border. It's a blend of natural industrial design, a balance of strength and beauty. Piece by piece, the border takes form, low to the ground, not meant to keep the world out, but to guide your steps, to frame the path, to make the grass and the walkway feel like they belong together. Wood for warmth, steel for structure, and stone for timeless character. Together, they create the Gabion wall that not only defines space, but also adds a bold modern touch to the landscape. The wall is finished, but to me it looks incomplete. It needed something else to finish it off. I decided to add a stone benchtop to the wall to complete the look I wanted. I checked at the local stone yard and found a flagstone that I thought would cap off the wall nicely. Unfortunately, I needed two of them, and they are $150 each, so I decided to go a different route. I decided to make my own concrete bench tops. I've made bar and countertops from concrete before, so this is something I'm comfortable making. I'm going to show you how I made my concrete bench tops. and saved a lot of money. It takes a little time, patience, and some, but not a lot, of DIY skills. You can make something just as durable and stylish for a fraction of the cost. Here's everything I used for the project. I used 3/8 inch plywood for the base of the mold. Sure the bench top is strong and won't crack over time. A high strength concrete mix plus water and a bucket for mixing. A trowel to spread and smooth the concrete, and a board, a 2x4 or other scrap piece to screed the concrete. The first step was building the mold. I measured the benchtop dimensions I wanted and cut the plywood and melamine. I pre-drilled holes before adding the screws to put the mold together. This helps keep the melamine from splitting. I had these materials left over from past projects. I screwed the mold pieces together. I made the base 46 inches long and 24 inches wide. With this width, I added a third vertical melamine border down the middle of the mold. This way, one mold can produce 2 bench tops. The smoother and tighter you build this mold, the cleaner your concrete finish will be. I also ran a bead of silicone caulk down the inside edges. That not only seals the gaps, but also gives a nice rounded edge instead of a sharp corner. I wasn't concerned about the total smoothness like I would be if I was making a countertop. This is an outdoor bench and I think it should look a bit rough. I sprayed some primer paint on the plywood base to seal the surface a little. This isn't necessary, but it helps the wet concrete from seeping into the plywood. I also sprayed some WD-40 and wiped it throughout the mold. This makes removing the mold a little easier. Again, not necessary though. There's a slight slope on my patio, going away from the house and towards the yard. So I had to use some shims to get the mold as level as possible. Now for the fun part, mixing and pouring the concrete. I used a bucket and a drill with a mixer attachment to mix mine. The key is to follow the water to mix ratio carefully so it's not too soupy or too dry, but don't get hung up on perfection. If it's too soupy, it'll just take a little longer to cure. It's not a big deal. I mix mine on the soupy side so that it will flow smoothly and completely into the corners of the mold. I laid my reinforcement grid, the Hog Panel scraps, making sure it stayed center so the concrete fully covers it. After that, I poured the rest of the mix and leveled it out with a straight board. I would normally tap the sides with a rubber mallet and even use a sander against the mold. The vibration helps release the air pockets and settle the mix, keeping the surface smooth. Unfortunately, I couldn't find my concrete float, so I had to make do with a piece of PVC scrap that I had lying around. This will work just fine though. The top of this mold is actually the bottom of the bench. The top of the bench is what's face down in the mold, so it doesn't have to be that smooth on the bottom. Concrete needs time to cure properly. I let it sit in the mold for an entire day before removing the mold. Don't rush this step. Curing is what gives the bench top its strength. I removed the mold the next afternoon after a round of golf. That explains the clothes I'm wearing. Be careful when removing the mold. Don't be too rough. A thin putty knife works great to separate the mold from the slab. After the mold is removed, I turn over the slabs and let the air get to the other side for another day. Concrete takes weeks to cure, however, it is set up strong enough to work with after just a few days. Not bad, some pot works, but it's a bench top for outside, so this is going to be just fine. After 2 days of setting up and curing, it's time to install the bench tops. The first step is the test fitting. Since I added a slight curve to the Gabion wall, I had to fit up the two slabs to measure the angle for the cut that is needed to get an even joint where the two slabs meet on the middle post. With the cut line scored, I use an angle grinder with a mason wheel to make the cut. It's important to keep the cut surface and the wheel wet. Otherwise, the dust from the cut will fill the air. That dust is really bad for your lungs, so make sure to keep the cut wet. I use a water bottle with a small hole drilled in the top. The mason wheel I used cuts through the concrete like butter. Another test fit, and it looks perfect. Now it's time to get these benchtops secured on the posts and complete this project. This project has lasted over a week, and I'm anxious to get it done. I secured 5-inch pieces of 2-inch angle flush with the tops of the posts. With 2 pieces secured to each post, these will provide an additional 12 inches of purchase for the construction adhesive to join the bench tops to the posts. I applied the construction adhesive to the tops of the posts and the attached 2-inch angle pieces. It's important to heat up the liquid nails tube prior to the application. This makes it flow out of the tube much easier. I skipped that step, and it was really tough to squeeze the adhesive from the tube. With the construction adhesive applied, I set the second bench top in place. I needed to make one small adjustment with the spacing, and I was done. Project complete. And that's it. My Gabion wall with a custom DIY bench top. Strong, modern, and budget friendly. Thanks for hanging out with me on this build. If you enjoyed this project, hit that like button and leave a comment. Subscribe for more DIY backyard and home improvement videos. I've got plenty of projects coming your way. See you in the next one.